What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and I wanted to make a video just expressing how excited I was for Daredevil Born Again, and I didn't know what to put to it. So I figured I would just show you guys a video where I help Spider-Zero return to the Spider Islands while massacring the enemy team in the process. So yeah, I am hyped for Daredevil Born Again. I am so excited for this show. And truth to tell, it's been a while since I've been excited for a Marvel project. It's not to say they're bad, but it's just, even with like Captain America Brave New World, for example, again, as I mentioned in the review video that we did, I didn't think it was a bad movie. It just didn't quite live up to what I think it could have. And even before the movie came out, there was a part of me that was just kind of debating on whether or not I wanted to see it. I was just kind of lukewarm to the idea of a Sam Wilson Captain America film. But with Daredevil Born Again, I'm legitimately excited for this. And truth to tell, I mean, if I'm being 100% honest here, a good part of that is nostalgia. And I think that's the case for a lot of people, because the Daredevil TV series came out at a time when Marvel was firing on all cylinders. And while not every Netflix show was a hit, right? Iron Fist, just saying it, that Daredevil absolutely was. And truthfully, when the first season came out, I was a little bit skeptical at that point in time, because I was coming into that show as a comic book reader. And having read Marvel for so long, right, 20 something years, I'm just kind of looking at Daredevil and I'm just sort of like, I mean, it is Daredevil, right? I came from an era when Daredevil was so unpopular, Marvel had to outsource his comics because nobody cared about it, right? He was part of Marvel Knights. That was the Event Publications, Joe Quesada, Jimmy Palmiotti thing. And so it was just kind of like, all right, we'll see. But then the show comes out and it's just like, holy cow. It was mind-blowingly good. And truth to tell, I think what really made the first season so great was Wilson Fisk, right? It was the Kingpin. He's the one that made the show so incredibly phenomenal. And I think that where season one was the origin story for so many characters. It was the origin for Matt, it was the origin for Foggy, the origin for Karen. Not in the sense that we got their entire backstory and their upbringing and that kind of stuff. We got that more for Matt than anybody else, but it was the origin of how they fit in to the Daredevil mythos and the Daredevil TV show. That what really got me was the Kingpin, right? That's really what won me over on that show, because it was in a lot of ways the origin story of Wilson Fisk. That sure, he doesn't really have a traditional origin in Marvel, which is to say Kingpin #1, and here's how he became the character that we all know and love. That instead, it was kind of his rise to power, that over the course of the first season, that he thought that he was doing the right thing, right? That he was literally doing what he thought was best for the city of New York. And by the end of the film, he's like, okay, or I'm sorry, the TV show, he's like, okay, fine, I'll do that, but I will do it by any means necessary. I'm not working within the system. I'm not working with anybody, right? I will take New York by force. That's perfectly reflected, right? In that whole monologue that he gives at the end, I am the ill intent, right? And there's that amazing moment where he's standing on I think it's the helicopter or whatever it is that whisks him away. And it's this super imposing figure. And it's just damn, there he is, man. The Kingpin, right? The Kingpin, the guy we all know and love. It was amazing. And then you go into season 2 where he fully embraces the Kingpin persona. He's running the prison that he's currently interred in, right? It's amazing, right? The way his character evolved and unfolded. And so looking at Daredevil Born Again, this was a show, or is a show, where Marvel cannot mess it up, because this has nostalgia written all over it for so many people. And while I wouldn't go so far as to say that if Marvel messes this up, the MCU is dead, people love to preach the doom and gloom of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? It's the popular trend at the moment, right? To talk about how the MCU is dead and dying and yada, yada, yada. But I will say that it will leave a very bad taste in people's mouths. And it will lead a lot of people to question the ability for Marvel to handle their properties effectively, right? And so, again, kind of with the show itself, right? What's got me so excited about the show? Well, number one, there's Muse. And I really hope they adapt Muse in terms of his personality and whatnot from the comics into the MCU. Because one of the things that I loved about Muse during the Charles Soule's run, for those of you guys who don't know, Charles Soule had introduced Muse as this kind of enigmatic character that it was kind of given to us, I think it was, what is it, like Daredevil 598 or something like that he was essentially an Inhuman, but the way his motivations functioned in the original introduction of his character, he was mysterious. You didn't really know why he killed people and why he was a serial killer outside of the fact that he just was making art, right? And like, that was it. He was almost this sort of Joker-esque character, right? Where in Batman the Animated Series, for example, Batman says his schemes make sense to no one but himself. Like, it's very much that when it came to Muse. Now, again, his whole motivation was to create art, but it was to create human art. And in fact, there's some pretty gruesome things that happen over the course of his run. He makes this mural out of human blood. There's a point where, I think, was it Blind Spot, who at that point was the sidekick of Matt Murdock of Daredevil, and Daredevil himself end up finding like the hideout, quote unquote, for lack of a better word, where the Muse operates out of, and that Muse has like all these bodies hanging from the rooftop, or I'm sorry, from the ceiling, that are like the people that he's made artwork out of. It's just this incredibly gruesome display. And not only that, he actually gouges out Blind Spot's eyes in that story. But by and large, outside of that, you don't know anything about his character. And the mystery is cool. In fact, there was an interview where that Charles Soule had done where they asked, like, are you going to go more in depth about Muse? And he was like, no. Like, I think him just being this enigmatic serial killer who just seems crazy and looks wild, that just needs to be the end of it, right? That mystery is what makes him cool. Because if you give him a backstory, you give him an origin, he stops being this interesting, mysterious character. He just becomes every character ever in Marvel, which ultimately that's what he became. Right after the original Charles Soule introduction story, there is a point where he reappears in Devil's Reign, and he just kind of falls in line with just characters in general, right? He sort of loses the interest and the appeal, at least I felt he did, of what made him intriguing in the first place. But that takes me into the next thing, right? That seemingly Born Again is going to kind of set the stage or borrow heavily from Devil's Reign. Now, I don't know exactly how they do Devil's Reign over the course of the entire show, if all the various plot threads are true, and your mileage may vary on the truthfulness of the leaks and different things like that. But Devil's Reign was a pretty significant story, and it came out of a lot of different things. It came out of Secret Empire, all that kind of stuff. We mentioned it before, but like, for those of you guys who don't know, like, Secret Empire was the story where Captain America was revealed to be a Hydra agent after the Red Skull used a cosmic cube to rewrite his past. And so when he took over, or really, started taking over North America, he confined New York into what was called the dark, oh my God, what was it called? The Dark Force dimension, which is a dimension where light just doesn't exist. And it literally came down to Dagger. One of the very few times where Dagger's been relevant in Marvel Comics, where she was literally standing on top of, I think, the Empire State Building and just emitting light 24/7. That's all she was doing. It exhausted her, but like, she had to. But during that time, while what remaining superheroes in New York were trying to deal with a way to undo the Dark Force dimension, everybody on the ground level was kind of left to their own devices. Crime was running rampant, stuff like that. So Kingpin uses his control over New York to protect all the innocent people because he sees it as an opportunity. And for all the people that he's protecting and all the criminals that he's dealing with, he always tells them, I hope you remember my efforts here in the future. And so when Secret Empire ends, Kingpin runs for mayor, and everybody remembers that Kingpin was the one protecting them. The superheroes weren't doing it. They were focusing on the Dark Force thing. When it came down to it, people breaking into their homes or trying to rob them on the streets, it was Wilson Fisk who kept them safe. So he becomes mayor of New York. And then there's a story where Matt Murdock uses some kind of magic or spell or something like that to wipe knowledge of his identity from the mind of Kingpin. And because of that vendetta, Wilson Fisk outlaws superheroes and literally wages a war against all the superheroes in New York because of Matt Murdock. It's really phenomenal. Now, again, I don't know how you adapt the entirety of that story to Daredevil Born Again. So either it'll be elements or it'll set the stage for it. And Kingpin will switch his motivations from being a mobster, right? A kind of, criminal warlord in the city of New York to becoming like a politician, right? Because at that point, he can use the legal system against superheroes, something they can't fight against, right? Use the very institutions that they support, right? The rule of law against them, right? It's one of the coolest things about the Devil's Reign story. But again, there's a lot of reasons to be excited for this, right? Punisher's coming back, Foggy Nelson is coming back, Karen Page is coming back, the team gets demolished coming out of their spawn. That it's an exciting time. It is an exciting time to be a MCU fan. oh man, I just killed Captain America because that guy sucked. Like it's an exciting time to be an MCU fan. And I'm hyped, right? We're like a week and a day away or something along those lines. I don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, man, like let me know what you guys think down in the comments section, right? Let me know if you guys are excited for this. I know I am. Which by the way, I changed my name to Heavy Spoilers. Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host, Paul. I'm British. I'll probably change it back. Love you, Paul. Peace.